Hi, this is Stephanie Miller from The Stephanie Miller Show. Please enjoy this exclusive clip from my show on Political Voices Network. Ben, you've just obviously been talking so passionately and intelligently about this because there are so many. I mean, it is amazing. People are like, oh, it's amazing. Vaccine experts became Middle East experts overnight on, on social media. And you just said there can be no peace when territory the territorial organization Hamas are the elected leaders of the Palestinian people, and they and their financial backers in Iran want only the murder of innocent Jews and Israelis. Peace cannot exist when one side does not recognize the other side's right to exist. Let's start there. So go ahead.
Yeah, people are having trouble doing the math on that. But let me try to explain it again. If one side doesn't want you to exist, it's incredibly hard to negotiate the fine details of your peace agreement. And people don't understand it. And it's an incredibly confusing and scary thing to see how the world went on one day, when on Saturday, feeling empathy for the horrible terror attacks that befell Israel, to Sunday, oh, it's not okay to feel bad about the terrorist attacks and support the Israeli people now? Yeah. Got it. We're on the side of the terrorist organization that throws gay people off of buildings and women get thrown in jail for showing their nostrils. And oh, they're the people that are somehow the good guys, and queers for Palestine are marching in New York in support of Hamas, essentially. Yeah. It's very, very confusing because the Israeli people, as you know, have offered peace deals many times to the Palestinians, and their leaders every time have pretended as though they are going to make a deal and then just last minute pull the rug out. Yeah. It's very much, Lucy pulling the football away from Charlie Brown, only that comes with death and bombs and suicide attacks, which really would not have made the final edit in any Peanuts cartoon. Not a very heartwarming holiday vibe.
I feel like Charles Schultz would have vetoed that last part. But that's the tragedy, is that Israel has given land for peace before they got out of Gaza a long time ago. But the tragedy is Hamas, they haven't had an election in 17 years, right? Hamas took over. As I keep making the point, Hamas is not synonymous with Israeli people. And obviously, according to polling, Ben, as I was just mentioning, a lot of Israeli people are not Netanyahu fans. And I don't think he's going to survive this politically. Do you?
Yeah, I mean, Hamas definitely is not all Palestinians. Netanyahu is not all Israelis. And I'll get to your Netanyahu question in a second, but I just wanted to make a political statement here first, if I can. Yeah. I want Israel to end the occupation that it ended in 2005. Re-end it. Yeah. End it again, Stephanie. And in fairness, they did end the occupation in 2005, and they do still keep military control of the outside of the Israeli territories around it and the flow of goods in and out, because they, once again, in Gaza are run by terrorists, and if they didn't do that, the terrorists would come in and would kill more Israelis. Is this hyperbole? Is this Jewish people being afraid? Look to 2 damn Saturdays ago, and you see they literally slaughter and kill and burn alive. And so if they want that to end, you just need an actual partner for peace. And oh yeah, let's remind everybody that there's also a crossing from Egypt into Gaza, and they can do whatever they please with that crossing, and they don't let a free flow of supplies and don't let any people into Egypt, hardly at all. In fact, Israel lets far, far, far more people from Gaza into the Israeli territory, into Israel itself, to work and live and thrive. And so that's garbage. Will Netanyahu survive? He will not. He very unfortunately is the wrong leader for this time. He was the wrong leader before this, obviously, which is why millions of Israelis were protesting him in the streets for weeks on end.
I keep saying he's a far-right crook like Trump. I mean, he's just, but I have to say, one thing that, kind of broke my heart this weekend is I feel like most experts, Ben, have said President Biden really could almost not have done a better job in this whole crisis, in trying to thread this very difficult needle. And I was reading, not just pro-Palestinian, protests, as you were saying, but that young Muslims saying they'll never vote for Biden. They feel betrayed. And I'm like, I feel like he has been incredibly even-handed while obviously supporting our strong support for Israel, as he should, and our condemnation of terrorist attacks. I mean, it's the politics on this are really confusing, aren't they?
Well, it is. This issue has always been the most confounding, confusing issue, and I think Biden has done a great job. It's pretty amazing that he was the first American president to visit Israel during war. To fly in during war was very ballsy as well. It was incredible, and being that he's not always the cognitively most sharp, he was pretty sharp, even after a very long flight, going right into a press conference with Netanyahu. I mean, I will excuse the couple of times that he didn't really finish an anecdote fully, or said, it seems like the hospital attack came from the other team. Maybe don't call them teams. This is a very serious issue. I don't know.
That's
that
an Uncle Joeism,
really,
but I hear you. I hear you.
Yeah, it doesn't convey the weight, but he has absolutely, on a public statement and policy front, been perfectly the ally Israel needs in this time, that America has always been the ally, and Israel is the only true ally of America in the Middle East, the only one we can count on, the only democracy in the Middle East. Somehow democracy now is evil, and evil terrorist-led dictatorships are the good guys in a lot of the world's eyes, which is bonkers. But he still has been very measured and calling for a humanitarian corridor and for aid to come in, all of which I agree with. And, you know, I personally would even be open to a ceasefire in exchange for all of the hostages back, and a ceasefire that then, of course, still allows Israel to protect itself and take out the horrible leaders of Hamas after that. But yes, we want to minimize civilian casualties, of course, and I don't think it's right to starve them out of electricity, which, by the way, Israel provides to them their food, water, and not food, but water and electricity and fuel for free to be the good people they are. Yeah. So you understand their instinct to not want to provide that stuff to people whose elected leaders have slaughtered them, but there are still innocent people there, and I think they should open that back up. And it's just also terrible on the PR front as well. But that's nothing to do with the need to remove Hamas, because they are not for peace. I'll just say this, Stephanie. Ask Hamas. For those who are on the fence.
It's in their charter that Israel should not exist and all Jews should die. So it's like they wrote it down.
Yeah, it's not even subtly put there. There's no obtuse language there. Israel will exist until we annihilate the Jewish dogs and shove them into the sea, and they hide behind every tree. And the tree itself will say, there's a Jew here, come kill him. That is the charter. And so ask Hamas what they want, because if you really think that this blockade, if you really think that the fact that the Palestinian people still don't have their own official state is due to Israel, I guess take off the table all of the peace agreements Israel's offered and that the Palestinian people have said no to. Ask Hamas what peace agreement, other than murdering all of the Jews, they're going to say yes to.
Yeah.
I'm waiting.
I'm waiting. You know, this is why I find the right wing here so unhelpful, because they look at every situation, including this one, as how's Biden bad? How's he doing the wrong thing? And, you know, Lindsey Graham with his stupid macho bluster, like, let's make Gaza a parking lot. And Mike Pence yesterday on TV saying, I would if I were president. First of all, that's the punchline. And, but, he's saying, I would send the Navy SEALs and rescue the hostages. They'd be home tomorrow. It's like, that's all they have is this macho bluster for how they would do things differently, right?
Yes, and all respect to our great military here in America, and that's something, it's not a comment on our brave soldiers who protect us, but on our military strategy. We've long said, the world has recognized that Israel might be the best, probably is the best army man for man in the world, and I had a friend text me, really better than the U.S., bro? I'm like, look at our recent wars. We can't win them. Look at most of our wars. I mean, we don't win in Iraq. We don't win in Afghanistan. We leave in failure in both of these situations. Taliban back in power. Iraq a complete mess where we killed hundreds of thousands of innocent Iraqis, which is horrendous.
Yes.
And people didn't call for a ceasefire on that 2 weeks into the war that we were trying to defend ourselves. And that was the wrong country.
And that's why I know it drives you crazy too, but it drives me, no one was more outspoken about being against the Iraq war than I was, right? Then I was a peacenik hippie, and now apparently I'm a warmonger because I think it's wrong for Hamas to slaughter Israeli civilians. I mean, I was saying there has to be a moral what's the word? Consistency. To say it's wrong to invade a country that didn't attack us in Iraq. It is wrong for Russia to invade and attack and kill civilians. That's a terrorist attack on Ukraine. And Hamas was a terrorist attack on innocent Israeli civilians. Like, there has to be a moral consistency, doesn't there?
100%, and that is fully morally consistent. And the only difference here that everyone on the other side likes to argue is, well, none of those scenarios was there an occupying force keeping the people down. And again, if somebody broke into your house to murder you, and you were able to hold them down and stop them from murdering you, I assure you, every human being would keep that person held down until they were certain they were no longer going to murder them. And then, if generously they believed and could prove that they were no longer going to murder them, they could let go, and they want peace. Nobody wants to hold somebody down. They want to go enjoy their lives. Israelis want to live their lives in peace. I have family in Israel that is running down to bomb shelters every few hours. My uncle, who used to be the environmental minister for the Israeli government and negotiated, by the way, one of the only lasting parts of the Oslo Accords with the Palestinians, and had to tell them, when they first came in on day one of the negotiations for the Environmental Pact, said, listen, God told us we get all of this, this, and this. He said, well, the negotiations are done, and I walk away because you can't negotiate with God. Yeah. And they came back a few days later and said, okay, fine, we'll negotiate. Apparently God changed his mind.
God's a Libra, I'm told.
God, he's on the fence. And so if they could do that once, they could do that again here. And if they end up saying, listen, we will negotiate, because there was once in the past that Hamas had been open, supposedly, to negotiations based on 67 borders. So, great, come back to the table, make very clear to the world community, we will do this, we'll give back all hostages, we'll immediately go into peace talks. Great. But ask Hamas, are they going to do it? Because I have a feeling they're still going to be with the let's kill all Israel stuff.